Okay, thank you. We'll call this Monday, June 2nd Committee of the Whole meeting to order. The time is 6 o'clock p.m. right on the dot. I am Deputy Mayor Wilson. I'll be chairing this meeting. The first thing to do is the adoption of the agenda. Could I possibly have, we need an adoption of the current agenda. Is that right, Mr. Mayor? Did I? That's right. Okay, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Reid.
I will so move we adopt the agenda as presented.
All those in favor? Approved. So the second thing to do is the adoption of the previous minutes. Could I get a motion to adopt the minutes of the May 20th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting? Councillor Flowers.
I move that we adopt the minutes of May 20th, 2025 Committee of the Whole.
Those in favor? Excellent. Moving on, delegations. It looks like we have a delegation from Alberta Health Services, if I've got the order correct here. I do, great. Can I call, is it Barb Shellian? I don't have, pronunciation of name spelled out on me as I normally do.
You got it right.
Excellent. Go ahead, Barb, thank you.
Great, thank you. Mayor and Council, thank you very much for the invitation to give an update about the Cochrane Community Health Center and specifically urgent care. My name is Barb Shellian. I am a director for rural health for the Calgary zone. And one of my sites happens to be the Cochrane Community Health Center, but I have been working in Cochrane with the health services for 22 years now. And so I remember what it was like in Cochrane when there wasn't a community health center, when the provincial building had some services and some home care was in another building, and it wasn't this one-stop shopping that we have today. And when I was talking with community members, we were thinking, what should we do to make it better for the people in the community of Cochrane? And of course, Susan Flowers put up her hand and said, I want to work with you, Barb. And we put our heads together and sat down on a couch in where FCSS was located at that point. And we started Team Health for Cochrane. And I'm really happy. It's a healthy community coalition. We have all sorts of different members from health services, but also from Boys and Girls Club, from hospice, from the women's shelter, different interests. Its membership is wide open as to whoever would like to come. And I'm really pleased to say we are still meeting, and we were really instrumental in the beginning of the Community Health Center. What should it look like? What types of services should be there? And what was our philosophy of care? So it all sort of culminated in the opening of the Community Health Center, which you see there. And I'm sure many of you have been by it or know where it works. Now we'll go abracadabra and see if my slides will. There we go. This was a picture of the urgent care center on opening day, and obviously now it looks a little different because there's always patients in there. And the Community Health Center was formally opened on February of 2011, so 14 years ago, and currently there's 150 staff who work in that center. And the majority of them actually they work in Cochrane and they also live in Cochrane. The urgent care, there's a combination of treatment chairs. If you've been there, sometimes you'll get sat in a chair or a stretcher, or we do have a area that we call rapid assessment, where people go and we can quickly get them in and get them out and get them back home. Some of you may be interested in knowing that we have additional services in the urgent care department, in addition to, going there with the illnesses that you would show up in urgent care for. We have established a partnership with the Alberta Children's Hospital. So if children from Cochrane are at the Children's Hospital for an urgent medical need, or they're there for a clinic of some sort, to make it so the parents don't have to go back and forth to the city all the time, we have a partnership with pediatricians at the Alberta Children's Hospital, so the children and the families can do follow-up visits at the urgent care with the pediatrician and the staff from Alberta Children's Hospital. So that saves people from traveling back and forth, and we've brought the services closer to home. We also have a CAS clinic, because previously people would have to go to the city for that service. And we also have a pediatric asthma clinic, and again, a partnership with the Children's Hospital. And of course, we have urgent care. People are quite familiar with that. You're sick, you're not feeling well, you come to the triage desk, the nurse talks to you, and you may sit in the waiting room for a while, or you may go right to the back to see different nurses and one of our physicians. I thought you may be interested in some of the other programs that we have there. As well, the laboratory diagnostic imaging is the radiology or X-ray department. Some of you may have had the chance to visit there. Public health and home care are other additional anchor programs that work out of there. The COPD and asthma program is out of urgent care. Addiction and mental health has a new name now. They're called Recovery Alberta, but they have offices and treatment there. And we also have, for people who have an urgent mental health need, we have urgent mental health services at urgent care, and we have someone who can look after things there for people who need those needs addressed. Environmental health is what you would know as the health inspectors, the people who look at hot tubs, restaurants, all those kinds of things. Oral health program is primarily done now by virtual. Speech therapy and living well with a chronic condition are all programs from the urban that come out to Cochrane. So we're really happy that we have all those varieties of programs at the Cochrane Community Health Center, and basically establish a one-stop shopping center there for health. I wanted to show you a little bit. This graph is just sort of a representation of the activity that has been happening in urgent care. And as you can see, every year it's more and more. And the 1 year that it dropped, that was due to COVID. But every year after that, it's been incrementally increased. And rather than looking at the graph, I thought I would just tell you that in 2023, the visits were 36,302, and in the close of this last fiscal year, the visits were 42,321. So they are increasing, definitely. We have made some asks recently of the government. It took us about 18 months with briefing notes going back and forth, you know how it is. They always want more information, or they're not ready to make that decision at that time. But in April of this year, we were really fortunate to receive 4 additional positions for urgent care, full-time positions, for nursing staff, and we were really happy about that, because what that does, we were having those positions, but they were unfunded, and I was having to explain that as a variance every month, and my boss didn't really like that, and the finance people disliked it even more. But now we have that funding. Those positions are fully funded, and we're really, really happy about that. Yes, so I wanted to tell you about and in addition to that, we have one, I've worked in healthcare for a long time, and we have one of the best medical directors at the Cochrane Urgent Care right now. His name is Dr. Simon Warwick, and he is very well connected to emergency physicians in the city, and he's been able to add to the roster of the urgent care, which means that people can just be seen more quickly. And the more doctors we have, the faster we can get the patients through. So we're really, really grateful that we have. Dr. Warwick was previously in the Canadian Army, so it's all like hop to it, people, meet them, treat them, and away we go. Some of the recent developments, the posted wait times, some of you may have been on that website where you can look and you can see what the wait time is for Foothills Hospital and Peter Lougheed Hospital and Airdrie Urgent Care, and the Cochrane Urgent Care just recently went on the wait times. So it's published to basically the whole province so people can see our wait times. And initially, we were having a hard time managing that because a lot of people would be coming in, and because we close at 10 o'clock for patients and the staff go home at midnight, we were having a hard time getting everyone through. The funding for the additional nursing staff has really made a difference, and we're really happy about that, and we've also hired additional physicians. One of the things that I'm really proud about, and it has nothing to do with me or about me, it is about the staff, the nurses and the physicians and the administrative staff at the Cochrane Urgent Care. Our site here has been cited as the gold standard for the province. And we have had, I think at last count, 9 visits from deputy ministers, people from Alberta Health to come and look at the site, because as you may have read in the media, the Alberta Health is establishing more urgent care sites throughout the province, and they are modeling those sites based on the Cochrane Urgent Care, because we've been very successful with patient satisfaction and patient flow. We also had a visit, not just from our Alberta colleagues, but Regina opened an urgent care last year, and we helped those folks in Regina to open up their urgent care, and they came for a couple of visits as well. So I think that's a real feather in the cap for our urgent care and our community health center. I'm really proud of the care that's provided there. I think we're doing a really good job. We get many accolades from patients and families. And, you know, to be realistic, again, we have some patients who aren't so happy, so we try to deal with those in a timely manner and respond to those concerns. So that basically concludes the update that I have for you, but I'd certainly be willing to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you for the presentation, Barb. It looks like we have a few questions. Councillor Reid.
Yeah, Barb, thank you for being here, and thank you and your team for the care that you provide our community. It really is much appreciated.
Thank you.
I had a couple of questions. One is, you were referencing the fact that you have communications with the local user groups, I'm assuming, or community groups. I was wondering if that included the local citizen group that has some concerns about the center.
Are you meaning the foundation?
No,
Or
I understand that there's some local citizens who have some concerns about the center, and I was wondering, you were indicating that you meet with community groups. I was wondering if that was one of the groups that you or your colleagues meet with.
there have been some concerns that haven't been sent directly to me, but have been sent either to the minister or to my supervisor about the hours of operation
Right.
for the Cochrane Urgent Care. And we're certainly aware that there are concerns and questions in the community about that. In this refocusing activity that the government is doing, Alberta Health Services now has no say or accountability or responsibility for the expansion or the change to services or anything of that nature. So when we receive those concerns, we make sure that those are sent to the new organization, which is called Acute Care Alberta, ACA, and we make sure that they're aware of the citizen concerns. You know, where I work and what I do, my responsibility is to make the care the best I can in the hours of operation, and decisions about expansion of any hours of operation would be outside of my portfolio.
Right, I appreciate that you're only the messenger. But my specific question was, do you personally, you indicated that you meet with community groups. I was wondering, is this one of those groups that you would actually meet with?
We meet with individuals who have concerns and direct them to where their concerns may be heard at a different level. The concerns that come to me are usually concerns about, I had to wait too long, the doctor was rude, the nurse didn't talk to me nicely. Those types of things are the ones that I deal with.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I could, just a couple more questions.
Sure.
Are our wait times getting any shorter?
Yes, with the addition of the staff. I'll be honest with you, when our wait times were first published, the staff were, and this is why I had those, I put those staff there that were unfunded, because staff were staying till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to get, excuse me, to get all the people through who were in the waiting room at 10 o'clock. We've restructured that process totally. We have additional triage nurses, and now staying late past their regular shift is really unusual. So I think we're handling the activity that we have right now, and our wait times are, and it depends on time of day, day of the week, long weekend, a Saturday night, those types of things. But our wait times are in no way close to what they are at the urban sites.
Okay, and if I could, just 2 more questions. You bet. So I understand, the answer was yes, the wait times are getting shorter. And so do you feel the increase in staff is keeping pace with our increased population?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you. And then-
especially not just increasing the nursing staff, but increasing the physicians has made a tremendous difference.
And recognizing that, again, you're just a messenger, what more could council or town council be doing, or town administration, to be of support to you in your role or your colleagues in terms of being able to get the services we think we need for our growing population?
I think the decision makers on that are Acute Care Alberta, and really now with the refocusing, Alberta Health, and the province of Alberta government is making many more decisions about allocations of services than they ever had. So any bureaucrats that you know, or MLAs that you know who work in the government, those are good people to let them know about concerns related to services.
Thank you. Yeah, again, thank you for you and your colleagues, your team, so much for the care that you provide in our community. It is much appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Flowers.
Yes, I too wanted to say thank you, Barb. And I think you should take more credit for all the great stuff that's happening there, because I've seen your leadership over many, many years, and a lot of it has to do with your style, your hard work. So thank you for that. My question was going to be about the hours too for the center. I know many people wish it was 24 hours, And it would be nice if it was a little longer, so everybody should write to the Acute Care Alberta and make that recommendation. And I know that you're working closely with the Cochrane Health Foundation, or at least the center is, and they're doing great things. Did they open a pediatric area?
Yeah, they decorated a specific room for pediatrics, which makes it a little less anxiety producing, because what kid wants to go where there's doctors and nurses? Not too many. So it's more decorated towards a child-friendly room. And they also recently commissioned a mural in our area where mental health services were located. It's an okay room, but people were sitting in the waiting room looking at a blank wall, and that wasn't too much fun. So the foundation actually commissioned a beautiful mural on that whole wall. And they've bought quite a few pieces of equipment already for the center, so that's great.
That's excellent. And I just want to add that community advocacy really works, because when we worked together years ago, we had it far enough along when there was a community or economic downturn that they didn't cancel it. So we're really lucky to have it here.
Yeah, we are, because I was, to be honest, I was asked to go to Cochrane because people were really upset. And I said, oh, thanks for that job. But, you know, I've come to love and really respect this community. I think it's a great community. It's a community that really wants the best for its residents. So I'm willing to work in any way I can to achieve that goal. Something that you said, Susan, reminded me that I just wanted to let council know that most areas in Alberta Health Services have a real difficulty, excuse me, with recruiting staff. We have no vacancies at Cochrane Urgent Care. We have no unfilled vacancies. We have a long list of people on our casual list who want to get in to work in Cochrane. So again, I think that speaks to if people want to work at a place, I'm happy about that.
Good news. I just wanted to ask one more question. You probably don't have the answer, or you can't make it change, but people want a hospital in Cochrane. What are the chances of that ever happening?
I can't comment on that. I don't know what the chances are. I think right now the provincial government is making a lot more decisions about healthcare than they ever have. And the 4 organizations that they have stood up are always have to check with the provincial government. So I don't know, Susan. And the proximity to Calgary, I think, may be a determining factor as to whether or not you'd ever get a hospital. But I don't know.
That's the answer we usually get when we ask the provinces. We're closer to the foothills, and most people in Calgary are towards other hospitals. So I just thought I'd bring it up because we do get asked that on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Genung.
Thank you. Thanks, Barb, for being here. Again, thanks to you and your staff. I have heard many good stories about the treatment of Cochrane residents and region in the urgent care. The biggest concern we hear obviously is hours of operation. I'm going to drill in on that a little bit, and I appreciate the meeting that you and I had a few months ago that kind of was the precursor to you being here tonight. Appreciate you making the time for us. I just wanted to maybe set the stage, and I think your stats that you shared show like an increase in visits, which is natural with the number of residents that we're increasing our population each year. And the question I asked you in your office a couple of months ago was, do we need a 24-hour urgent care center? And you said no. And I wanted to back that up and say, I think we have had a perfect storm in Cochrane of a doctor shortage for a time. And I think that's shifted or shifting. Then we had COVID. And we've also had an increase of residents that maybe aren't aware of what to visit urgent care for. And those are the kind of the 3 takeaways that I had from our visit, where you talked about addressing the number of residents with increasing in staffing, which you've talked about tonight with nursing and physicians. 2 would be extending hours, and I'm understanding now that you're saying we should go through Acute Care Alberta for that, so that's a new avenue. But what can you share with us around extended hours? Because I know in Airdrie, they were in the same position we were a few years ago and weren't happy with the shift that they got. They did get 24 hours, but didn't get an increase in services to go with that. Or so maybe can you provide us, and I think I'm building on what Councillor Reid was saying.
Right.
Here's my question finally. Lobby the province for more funding, increasing services, but what is it that residents, when we go away from here and go back to Cochrane residents about 24 hours or not, what's the answer? Where are we going from here?
I can be honest with you, as I was in our meeting at the health center, was I haven't heard any conversations at my level in the organization, in my portfolio, about Cochrane Urgent Care being increased, hours of operation being increased. That's not to say it's not in a conversation somewhere else. And so I think the lobbying and the advocacy is, well, it's not useless talking to me, but it's, I can't make that happen. The people who can make that happen are your political representatives. Anyone in, if you know, a deputy minister, assistant deputy minister, the minister. The minister did a tour of our site a couple of months ago, and she was very pleased with what we were doing, and that's when she told us we were the gold standard. And I think now they've changed ministers, so she's not really directly related to the operational health services. So there's a new person, and you're going to ask me his name, and I don't know. But you know, any connection to the government to lobby AHS is like, we've heard it, we know it, but we can't do anything about it at this point. And to be honest, like, we don't, we're managing the volumes that we have right now. If we ever started again to have staff staying till 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, then that would be an indication that we need to stay open later. But we're clearing our waiting room very efficiently at 10 o'clock. So I guess I don't know if that answers your question, but that's about all I can contribute.
No, that's helpful. I think the 2 things that you left with me that day also was one around increasing like ancillary services. So an additional X-ray machine, which I think the Cochrane Area Health Foundation is after now. So I guess where I'm going is, so instead of asking for extended hours, which maybe the data doesn't show that we need that, 24 hours, the same answer. But what can we do as a community to add to that, to then kind of change, to, I guess, take a different approach than lobbying or asking for something, but add more services? And that was one of the things that you left with me. And I think that would then bring more physicians, more nursing staff, and then more patients, and then maybe put some pressure on the extended hours.
Yeah, and I think an additional X-ray machine would really help us move patients more quickly, and especially with the CAS clinic, it's a real jam up of patients on those days. We don't have ultrasound at the site. That's provided by a private provider in the community. So we don't have that on site. We have the capability and we have the room for ultrasound, but we don't have ultrasound.
Okay.
That's another gap that we notice.
Then the last thing, would be around education. So just making people aware of what services are provided at urgent care and what the hours are. And I think one of the things you said to me was, if you can wait the evening, then you should probably wait until urgent care opens the next day. If you can't, you should be going to a hospital. Can you expand on that and maybe what you're doing or what the province can do to educate our residents about that?
Right, we've been working on a project with the people who monitor and run the published wait times. And it's more about when to go to emergency, when to go to urgent care, and there is going to be more public information on that website when people go to look at the wait times. It's a project that's in process right now, but I think that will be really helpful for the public too, to say, okay, I have crushing chest pain. Well, you probably should call 911 and get yourself to the foothills. Or I have a fish hook in my finger. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Off you go to urgent care, or a sore throat, or those types of things.
Okay, again, thank you for what you're doing.
Pleasure, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Flowers.
Just one more thing about the education. Should we be telling people we'll call 811 if it's the middle of the night and ask questions?
Yeah, that's a good, because there's people there 24/7, and they'll identify whether that person should go to the emergency room or urgent care right away, or what they could maybe do at home to wait for a while. Yeah.
And also calling 911. The paramedics can deal with a lot of the issues right on the
Yes.
spot.
Yeah.
And then if it's determined they need to go to the hospital, they can take them.
Yep.
So that would be my recommendation.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That just leaves me. Thanks for being here for the presentation, Barb. I had just one question, and I'll come at it at a different way than two others have already asked you, and that's, it's more to help me, honestly, when we're talking to the public. So when I'm at a trade show, or I remember knocking on thousands of doors last year or last time we did the election thing, maybe 1 out of 5, the top topic they had for me was, what can we do about urgent care in Cochrane, getting 24-hour urgent care, staffing up hospital, all those questions. And I think just listening to what you just said, and I don't know if it's told me anything I didn't know, what I always assured them was, we do our due diligence on advocacy already on those topics, which means advocate to our direct MLA, advocate to the minister and the minister's office at every chance we get.
Yep.
But beyond that, what can a resident do if it's a hot topic for them? And the question I'd have is, you just gave Airdrie as an excellent example, which seems very significant because it's about the same distance to Calgary facilities as we are, perhaps twice the population currently. They did successfully get 24-hour urgent care at some point a few years back.
Yeah.
Is that likely, in your estimation, just to get triggered by population increase? Was it some advocacy thing they did that we have yet to do? Did you actually see that take place? I don't know if you have any
I
insight.
did see that take place, and I think it was a combination. There was a lot of public input to both to municipal leaders, which I'm sorry, you might get it, and you probably have it already, but also to provincial elected representatives. And to have those connections, like you know people in Alberta Health that I don't know. And I think to really say something like, something like you just said to me, that 1 in 5 or 1 in 3, or I know that one of the things that helped us get the community health center were the community surveys that were published, FCSS had done, and there were questions in there about urgent care. We didn't have urgent care in Cochrane at that time. And so we were able to take that community survey, and there's easier ways to do community surveys now with virtual or those types of modalities. But if you really think it's a community need and something the community wants, then you have the networks to push that in terms of advocacy.
We have the networks, and to come armed with stats, it sounds like helps with the advocacy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm willing to provide, I think I provided to the mayor a list of the last few years of activity, and I can certainly provide that to council if they want that again, just as ammunition, right? So. You still have it? Okay, good. So that's, I mean, that's a good outline of the increases that have happened over the years.
Okay, well, thank you for being here today. There was two things that really helped me, which was showing that we've increased our capacity at our current facility, which is heartening, and then also what we can do going forward to improve our situation. So
Great.
muchly appreciated.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, and on
It's
behalf
my
of all
pleasure.
council, thank you for being here.
And thank you for the work that you do. I know that you're really solid and committed to your community, and I admire you for that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Barb. Appreciate it. That gets us through delegations. It looks like we have two business items tonight. 5A is bylaw 14, 2025. Land use bylaw amendment, historic downtown direct control district is the title I have in front of me.
Okay. Good evening, Deputy Mayor and Council. It's been a while since I've presented to you guys, so I wanted to reintroduce myself. My name is Amanda LeGros, and I'm a planner with the town of Cochrane, and I've been here for 8 years. I'm here this evening to present a land use amendment application submitted by a potential purchaser to enable automotive services and automotive washes on specific properties within the historic downtown. The application submitted is proposing to amend a land use within the land use bylaw to a newly created direct control district that enables automotive focus uses. If approved, the land use change will go on to inform decisions at the development permit stage. The land use amendment application is specific to 3 parcels within the historic downtown: 217 and 221 2nd Avenue West, as well as 216 3rd Avenue West. The parcels are shown in green on the slide and are located south of Highway 1A and north of the FCSS building. The subject properties are currently zoned commercial historic downtown, which is shown in purple on the slide. It is a commercial land use district specifically used for properties within the historic downtown area. This is the historic downtown district, which currently applies to the subject properties. The district does not allow for drive-through businesses and lists automotive gas stations, services, and washes as discretionary uses under the authority of CPC, provided that they were existing at the time that the bylaw was adopted. This means that automotive-focused businesses existing in the historic downtown prior to January 2022 can continue to operate, but new ones are not allowed. As a result, a new direct control district was applied for, as there is interest to operate a new automotive service and a car wash adjacent to Highway 1A. This is the proposed direct control district. When creating the district, the applicant used the historic downtown district as the base and amended the permitted and discretionary uses. They also added regulations clarifying landscaping requirements and the possibility of requiring additional setbacks when adjacent to residential development. As you can see on the slide, the applicant is proposing that automotive service and automotive car wash be permitted uses in the district, along with drive-through services. The rest of the listed uses are currently allowed in the existing historic downtown district. The application was reviewed against applicable town planning documents such as the strategic plan, the Cochrane Sustainability Plan, Envision Cochrane 2050, and the Downtown Redevelopment Plan. Administration, in reviewing the application against the strategic plan and the sustainability plan, administration found that the proposal is in alignment with the documents as it will allow a new business to open in town. Administration found that the proposed amendment does not align with Envision Cochrane, the new municipal development plan, as the land use objective is to respect the scale and character of the historic downtown, and the goal of the area is to preserve its pedestrian old town character. In addition, all of the policies of the historic downtown area are focused on promoting the area as a destination that comprises of pedestrian-oriented commercial and mixed-use development, with retail, eating establishment, and personal service uses. It is administration's belief that the addition of automotive-focused uses does not align with the vision and policies within the Envision Cochrane document. And finally, the proposed application was reviewed against the downtown area redevelopment plan, which states that new automotive-oriented commercial development should not be located within the downtown, except for along the north side of Railway Street. The document also states that the objectives of the downtown are to encourage strong pedestrian and vehicle linkages, as well as encourage development that is in keeping with Cochrane's small town character. As a result, administration found that the application is not in alignment with the downtown redevelopment plan. This slide presents a summary of how the proposed direct control district compares to the current historic downtown land use district and other planning policies. The proposed district creates no change to connectivity as sidewalks are already existing adjacent to the property. The proposal results in a decrease to policy guidance of being pedestrian friendly as the new uses are automotive focused and would result in residents and clients remaining in their vehicle for the service. The proposal will be a negative change to the compatibility with the historic downtown, as the policy intent is to have small town character retail and office options, as well as a focus on food and beverage establishments. However, it should be noted that if approved, the applicant will have to adhere to the Western Design Framework when designing their building and their site. It is administration's belief that the proposal will create no change to the historic downtown being a destination, as the proposed change in uses would result in limited influence on regional attraction, as it would create a minimal draw for outsider visitors. And finally, the proposed application does not change the tax base collected, as the town is already collecting taxes for commercial development on site. Overall, administration believes that the overall value proposition of the application is a negative change to the existing land use district on site. As part of the standard application process, the public was notified of the application through 2 notice of application signs which were posted on the property and letters which were mailed out to adjacent landowners. The application was also formally circulated to town departments and necessary referral agencies. We received 2 concerns from town departments as well as 1 response from adjacent landowners. The town departments were not supportive of a repair shop adjacent to a multi-story residential building, and they wanted to ensure that street parking would not be impacted by a future development. An adjacent landowner is not supportive of the proposed application for 2 main reasons. The first is that their building contains residential units, some with balconies that would face the proposed automotive use, and would likely be a nuisance to their tenants, especially if the noise was from a car wash. Their second concern is that access to the subject property is currently through an easement on their site, and which they believe results in a minimum of 10 additional vehicles a day, which already impacts the use of their site. As a result, they do not believe that the operation of their site could accommodate the increase in traffic through the access easement. In addition to the above consultation, the proposed bylaw will be subject to a public hearing if first reading is granted by council. The proposed direct control district amendment will be presented at the next week's council meeting for first reading and to set the public hearing date, which is tentatively scheduled for June 23rd. If first reading is granted, the application will be presented at the July 14th council meeting for second and third reading. If second and third reading is granted, the applicant will be able to proceed to a development permit application in alignment with the new direct control district. If council defeats second and third reading, then the land use would remain as historic downtown, which is currently on the property. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time. I am joined by Rob O'Clair, Manager of Planning, and we're happy to field any questions that you may have. Additionally, Mark Krasinski, Director of Community Growth, is available for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Amanda and Rob. Just for clarity, the purpose of this right now before us, a committee of the whole, would be to accept for information and to have information when we get to our first hearing council meeting in 1 week. Is that the point of today? I'm just trying to gather what we're here to do today.
To the chairing council, the purpose, to my understanding, the purpose of the meeting is to present the application to you and field any questions that you may have of the application before proceeding to first reading.
Okay, thank you. I didn't mean to make that sound critical. I was just trying to make sure we stayed on the lane, in between the lines, whatever the cliche is. Okay, Councilor Reid, please.
I don't know if I'll stay within the lane, but I'll try. First is a comment. So for me personally, and I know we're not voting on it tonight, and and we'll probably reserve those comments, but it seems rather offensive that at least the 8 years we've been working to establish a wonderful downtown, that we would have to entertain something like this, and it would waste both council time and your time. That's my comment. The question then is there a process where the planning department could have dealt with this and not have it come to council?
Sure.
Through the chair to Councilor Reid, we have the pre-application process, and in that space, then we can advise the applicant of our initial feedback, if this meets initial policies in terms of Envision Cochrane 2050 or other subsequent policies as well. But we can't restrict an application from coming in, so it is then evaluated when it does come in. But through that pre-application process, in which we did have with this applicant, we can field any of those initial questions and then provide that kind of a feedback if there is going to be support in this space or not. But of course, because this is going to council, we allow them to present to council at a public
So
hearing.
the simple answer is no, you don't have the authority to be able to deny it.
Through the chair, correct.
Thank you. And then the second question I have is, if I understood their presentation correctly, this could die a natural death if nobody supported its first reading. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that is correct. If council does not grant first reading, then the application will not proceed to public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Drew has a comment. Mr. Hyman, please, you have a comment.
Councilor Reid, I just want to make a comment regarding the first reading. Obviously, that is an opportunity to advertise this item and then have the public hearing. So of course, that would provide the applicant an opportunity to provide their position to council. It would be very rare for us to deny first reading and that opportunity for a public hearing. So just want to clarify that.
Councilor Reid, did you want to reply to that?
Could I pick up on that? So if I understand correctly, then we have to have a public hearing, or can council decide not to have a public hearing and not waste everybody's time?
You can decide that. That would be rare from our experience here at the town, providing due process to all applicants.
Right, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Flowers.
Rare but doable. I don't think it's a good fit for our downtown core. We need that service, but just not right downtown, especially beside the Homestead. It's called the Homestead Apartment Building, and it's run by Cochrane Society for Housing Options, and they missed out on the first opportunity to give feedback, but they're definitely against having it there, and there's got to be a better place for it. So I'm hoping that we can skip all the work in the meantime. I know some of our own internal departments don't think it's a good idea too, so I would be against it even though we're not voting.
Councilor Reid, or
Nagel.
Nagel. I'm looking at Councilor Nagel right now. Please.
I will refrain from taking a position, but I will ask some leading questions. I think that everybody on council has always agreed that we want this sort of area to have an entrance sort of effect for Cochrane. When you're coming down the hill, you see the beautiful view in the distance, and as you enter the community, you're like, wow, I've arrived in Cochrane. A sense of arrival, that's what I'm looking for. Has this applicant proposed anything that would contribute to Cochrane's sense of arrival as part of this development?
So through the chair, at this time, they have not proposed anything. There's nothing special added or specific added to the district proposed, but that doesn't stop us from requesting something if it proceeds at the development permit stage.
Okay, thank you for the information. That's all I have.
Okay, it looks like that got us through that. I don't know if if administration got what we wanted from this, but at least we took the temperature in the room a little bit. Oh, we do have one more question. Okay, Councillor Nagel.
Just to make sure I understand the situation correctly, the applicant has not purchased this yet, correct? The idea was they were trying to get it approved and then purchase subject to approval?
Through the chair, that is what I heard a couple months ago. I have,
So it is possible that somebody has purchased this land under the assumption that they're gonna be able to build this here? Or do we know whether or not that has happened?
through the chair, I could receive further like clarification if this was to be brought back at first reading. But at the last I heard, it's part of a purchase agreement. It's a condition of purchase.
Okay, do we have?
We can gather that information and bring that back to you.
Okay. It does seem relevant, just because I would feel so bad about shutting this down so enthusiastically if somebody had just, dumped their life savings into this, but.
Through the chair, Councilor Nagel, if I can just add a little bit of clarity to that as well. All of the information available to the purchaser at the time was that this is a land use district which would not allow these uses. And through the pre-application process, which Mr. O'Clair spoke to earlier, they were informed that this was a use that would be subject to council approval and would encounter some challenges from getting administration and council on board in light of the non-alignment with some of our guiding documents and policies.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome.
Okay, that just leaves me. I tend to agree with my colleagues on their opinions of the application, but to skirt the due process, if this is the way that we would ordinarily proceed, I don't know if I'd be so willing to do that. We'll see when we get to the vote, at least for first reading, which is at our next council meeting a week from now. Excellent. Okay, well, thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
We are on to business 5B, the Community Investment Program. Welcome, Michelle.
Good evening. All right, so good evening, Council. Today I'm here presenting the draft Community Investment Fund Policy. I'm seeking your feedback before I finalize the version and bring it back at the end of the month. This policy is an essential next step for Cochrane as a municipality because we operate primarily as a facilitator that enables community organizations to deliver programs, services, and events that directly benefit our residents. By formalizing and expanding these grant streams, we are providing community groups with more tools to continue building on the incredible work that they're already doing, whether it's an essential service, cultural programming, recreational opportunities, or grassroots initiatives. It's also important to highlight that all of these streams are structured as matching grants, which means that we can stretch town dollars further by leveraging additional funding, volunteer time, and in-kind support from other sources. So the need to update this policy comes down to a few key gaps and opportunities. First, the current policy only covers events, projects, and limited community association supports. But over time, we've been providing operational grants outside of any formal policy, and many emerging or grassroots groups have had no access to town support. This has created inconsistency, uncertainty, and missed opportunity. Second, Cochrane has grown and diversified significantly, and the demands on our local nonprofit and community sector have increased. We're seeing more organizations step up to fill service gaps, deliver programs, and contribute to community vibrancy, but they need clear, fair, and accessible pathways to municipal funding. Third, by introducing a structured framework with clear funding streams, transparent criteria, and matching grant requirements, we can ensure investments are aligned with Council's strategic priorities, support the groups that are doing the most impactful work, while maximizing the value that we're delivering to residents. Overall, this updated policy gives us a better foundation to meet today's community needs, plan for the future, and ensure that municipal funding decisions are consistent, transparent, and delivering measurable results. So these are the main investment streams outlined in the updated policy. Each stream has its own purpose and criteria, and I'll walk you through them in more detail on the next slides. So the community operational grant stream formalizes our operational support for two main types of organizations. The essential services providers, delivering critical or mandated services, and community enhancer groups like arts, culture, sports, and heritage organizations. A key improvement here is the introduction of multi-year funding agreements And this isn't just about providing stability, it's about helping grassroots and community enhancer groups become more self-sustaining over time by giving them predictable support they can leverage to attract other funding or scale their efforts. We're also strengthening the evaluation process to ensure that we're aligning funding with town priorities, organizational capacity, and overall community impact. This stream supports the full range of events that bring people together and create community connection, from small grassroots gatherings to major public events. At the small scale, this includes things like neighborhood block parties, local cultural events, or community cleanups. At the large scale, we're talking about events like Discovery Days, Bunkhouse Bonanza, or the Labor Day Parade. We've also added a transit support option to help make larger events more accessible and reduce congestion. Overall, this stream ensures we're backing events that strengthen vibrancy, inclusivity, and pride across our community. In the past, we've been able to support small projects like community gardens, but with this updated policy, we are creating a stronger and more flexible framework. We're introducing clear categories with various funding levels: small capital, large capital, access and participation, and environmental stewardship, to help these groups scale their efforts and access matching funds. The Access and Participation Grant will be open to facilities operated by nonprofits, helping improve accessibility and inclusivity across a wide range of community spaces. We've also included an environmental stewardship grant, supporting initiatives like tree planting or even citizen science projects. For example, a local group monitoring riverbank health or tracking wildlife to inform local conservation efforts. We know many community groups have told us that they struggle to secure other grants without matching contributions. So by providing town support specifically with these capital grants, we are helping to unlock external funding through this. So this stream is about making sure that we lower the barriers for a wide range of groups, not just formal community associations, but also grassroots, cultural, ethnocultural, sports, arts, and recreation organizations. Historically, only formal community associations could access small grants like insurance, for things like insurance support. Now we're broadening that access and offering flexible, low-barrier grants to help all types of groups strengthen their operations. These grants can support things like basic liability insurance, helping new groups incorporate as a legal nonprofit, providing training and capacity building opportunities for their volunteers, offering outreach tools to help groups connect with their community, whether through posters, translation services, or other digital tools. And so this is creating real-time opportunities for groups that may be new, under-resourced, or emerging, giving them stepping stones they need to stabilize, grow, and eventually scale up their contributions to the community. This stream is designed to empower young people, not just as participants, but as leaders and change makers in our community. It creates opportunities for youth to apply for small grants to lead their own projects or access leadership development experiences. For example, this could be a group of high school students organizing a neighborhood cleanup, an awareness campaign, or a youth-led initiative to build a community garden that brings together kids and seniors in intergenerational learning. We also anticipate seeing youth applying for leadership workshops, conferences, or mentorship programs that help them build advocacy, project management, or civic engagement skills, all critical to growing the next generation of community leaders. This section addresses historically funded groups. Organizations like Activettes, Boys and Girls Club, CHAPS, Stockman's Memorial Foundation, and the Cochrane Humane Society have been receiving operational support under informal or legacy arrangements. With this new policy, we're introducing a 24-month transition period. During this time, these groups will continue receiving their existing funding, but will work closely with administration to align with the updated grant streams and reporting requirements. We're offering direct supports like workshops, one-on-one consultations, and transitional funding guidance to help them understand where they fit under the new framework. The goal here isn't to cut off value to organizations. It's to bring everyone onto a fair, transparent, and consistent system that ensures accountability, aligns with council's priorities, and makes sure that all funding decisions are evaluated under the same standards going forward. The overall Community Investment Fund budget is set annually as part of the town's municipal budget process, but how we distribute those funds across the different grant streams will be driven by real measurable data. We'll be tracking key metrics each year, including total number of applications versus approvals, total funding requested compared to what's available, community reach such as attendance, volunteer hours, and participation, the value of matching contributions secured, and trends in demand such as which streams are oversubscribed or underutilized. This annual data will be compiled into a report presented to council, giving you a clear picture of how the program is performing and where adjustments may be needed. This approach ensures the future budget recommendations aren't based on guesswork or history alone. They're based on evidence, demonstrated community need, and alignment with council's evolving strategic priorities. It also helps us ensure we're maximizing the return on investment for residents by understanding how town dollars are being matched and leveraged within the community. So today, I am asking for your feedback on the draft policy. No financial decisions are being made at this stage. And next, based on your input, we'll finalize the policy and bring it back for formal council approval. At that same time, we'll also present a recommended allocation for the 2025 Community Investment Fund budget. There is an additional $110,000 that is currently unallocated for granting for 2025. Once approved, we would open those grant streams for applications, allowing community groups to apply under the new framework. And then throughout this rollout, we would be delivering training, education, and outreach to ensure groups are fully prepared, and will continue preparing for the launch of we are launching a new grant software later in 2025 as well. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, great. Community Investment Program, thoughts and questions. Councillor Reid.
Yeah, just a couple of comments and then a question. Maybe they're all comments. I know some of my colleagues think that I over-exaggerate the excitement we have or the pleasure we have for some of this work, but this is a really great piece of work. And I think, probably I'm going to beat this horse. Another example of why we put key people in key places, and so thank you for this work. The why for me was about this policy or this program is the lack of transparency that we previously had, the lack of inconsistency, the lack of strategic alignment, and most importantly for me was in the past the political influence that jeopardized, I don't want to say jeopardized, but certainly influenced some of these decisions. So the fact that we have a return on investment, we have accountability, transparency, and measurable data before we make a decision, I think is really, really critical in terms of being able to move forward. So thank you for that. The other comment I had was about the legacy funding transition process, which is something we've talked about, I think, our 8 years as a council. And while the question has come up, and it's not a criticism, while the question has always come up in regards to these awarding these funds, now it's actually, we'll have it in place. And I think that's just brilliant. So I guess no question, just comments. And I really look forward to coming forward and supporting this.
Thank you.
Councillor Flowers.
I agree with Councillor Reid that it's a grand plan, but how many people are actually working on all this, evaluating and taking applications, and it sounds like a big job.
Through the chair to Councillor Flowers. So this position, we have one full-time position that oversees the event permits and the grant program. So when we are reviewing all of the grant applications, it's myself and that person. We recently just completed all of the event grants, and it is a lot of work, and that's why we're actually launching the grant software in the fall, so that will help us streamline and automate a lot of the process, so that we can start focusing on helping educate the community on how to actually apply for these grants and how to strengthen their applications.
It seems like it's a little complicated. There's a lot of big words in there, and just wondering about somebody new, would they be intimidated, and will you have time to sit down with them and go through it all?
That's actually the intention of the software, is to ensure that we can utilize our human resources to help our community so that they can apply versus utilizing the staff that are in place right now to just do like reading through all of the applications and the approvals and making sure that we've got a very clear matrix. But we do have, even within the social development team, there is support there for grant writing too.
And I wondered about the FCSS grants. It's mentioned that it can't duplicate them, but they have a very small pot of funding, and if they don't get it because they're not preventive enough, then when do they apply for the other streams?
So through the chair to
Is
council,
everyone working together?
yeah, through the chair to Councillor Flowers, we do work with the FCSS team quite a bit. As an example, this last round of grants, we had 7 different grants that we had kind of highlighted as potentially they may have applied. And so then we went immediately to the FCSS team and we just coordinated to ensure that we weren't providing money in both spaces. And it turned out that 5 out of the 7 hadn't been provided money from FCSS, so we were able to move their projects forward through our granting.
That's good to know. I like the addition of the transit option because it seems to come up a lot these days, and if you can help out there, that's great. What else? So the timeline seemed a little long, like they apply in March, but they won't get the money till the end of the year?
So there's different timelines for each different grant, depending on the grant stream. Let me just find the timeline. So the operational grants the intake is February 15th, and so that would be coming back, and once there is approval, then we would be able to release that funding immediately. With all of our event streams and our project streams, as soon as there's approval, we try to make sure that our approval process is done within 3 weeks, and we're notifying everyone if they were approved or not, and then they would be receiving the funding within that 3 weeks.
Oh, that quick. The way I read it, I thought it was 9 months before the decision. So it's already pre-approved in the budget. You're just figuring out where the money's going. And what about the big grants? There was something that it said had to come back to council.
So similar to the FCSS grants, we would make sure that all operational grants are very clear, where we're really reporting on those ROIs of the work that's happening, so that we would make sure that that council is alive to the funding that all of those organizations are receiving.
I see. And so the ones that you're transitioning, this year, they'd be informed. And, but they'd still get their money for this year, and then they'd have a chance to apply for more when you're opening it up again?
Yeah, so they've already received their funding for 2025. Once this policy is approved, we would work with them for the next 24 months, and so that funding would still be allocated to them the same way, but we would start transitioning them to the reporting requirements and various things like that, and then helping them understand how to apply for the grant based on where they would fit within the policy.
So they're not necessarily out of the picture, but they have to follow all the guidelines that you're putting in place to ensure that they're doing the same thing as all the other groups?
Yes, that is correct. And then these groups would not need to apply until 2028. So they would be guaranteed funding for 2026 and 2027, as long as budget is approved at council. And then we would move them towards creating that application and putting forward an application for 2028.
And somebody new, like Helping Hands, that came to ask for funds, so they could be added this year still?
So when I bring back the policy, I will be bringing back a recommendation for the allocation of that $110,000 based on this policy. That's all we have budgeted for 2025 that hasn't been used yet. But in 2026, we would be talking about allocation of each stream before through that budget process.
Thank you. That's all I can think of for the moment.
Okay, Councillor Nagel.
I have some questions about the assessment criteria. So there's a lot of not statements, but like a few words here and there about the assessment criteria. I'm wondering if there's an official definition of those provided in this policy anywhere. For example, I think I saw in here, you're assessed on your vibrancy, for example. Like, what does that mean? How does somebody get maximum points? Where's this? Community engagement and vibrancy, the weight, 30%. Like, how would somebody who's applying for these grants understand what exactly that means?
Through the chair to Councillor Nagel, can you
I am
point me
on
out what number you're
page
looking at?
17 of 19.
17, 19, okay. So you're looking at which
All of the
category?
different assessment criteria. I was just wondering if maybe when we approve the policy, if we could get some, or a detailed expansion, or even not super detailed, but like somewhat of an expansion, like an appendix to the policy or something about what each of these
Absolutely.
lines mean.
Yeah, yeah, I can make sure that that's a lot more robust.
Because I've applied for some grants before in the past myself, and sometimes you're reading these things and it's kind of like, what exactly are they looking for? I think that would be useful. And then a follow-up question to that, I was just curious about the inclusion piece, the accessibility and inclusion, and then is in the events grant stream, and community impact and inclusivity is in the community project stream. What is the intention there? What would somebody do to get a high score in that section?
Are you still looking at the matrix?
Yes.
Yeah.
Still 17
Okay.
of 19.
So the community events, accessibility and inclusion, and then community projects is, sorry, you said community impact, and I think that actually just might be a typo, so it should be talking about accessibility and inclusion. We are rewording it to be access and inclusion, because that's what like the goal would be, creating access for everyone. So I'll just make sure that I adjust that wording.
Yeah, so from my perspective, I think a policy that encourages that the event can be accessed and utilized by everybody is great. But I was just wanting to make sure we're not like assessing stuff with a certain social agenda
Exactly.
behind it.
Yep.
There's no
No.
social agenda. Okay.
No.
Okay, perfect. Love that. Thanks.
Mayor Janung.
Yeah, thanks. Echoing the comments of my colleagues, I think this is a great piece of work. Love that, I like the transit piece that Councillor Flowers touched on. I like each of the categories. I'm not too keen of the name of the grant, to be like, of the process, to be honest. I don't think it's clear to people. Community Investment Grant Program, I'm not sure people understand what that might mean. And maybe that's just as we roll it out, people will understand that's what it is, and then it won't matter what the title is, but I just don't think it's that clear. Anyways, my 2 cents. Just around, the only thing that I have some feedback on is the legacy transition support. Is it the intent then to, the way I read it, would be in 24 months that those legacy grantees would then fall off the traditional grant fund and have to reapply through the other stream, so then this legacy transition would be gone?
Through the chair to the mayor, yes, that's correct. So they would have the 2 years to work with administration to understand which stream they would fall under. And so they would either fall under the Community Enhancer Grant or the Essential Grant, because they're all receiving operational grants right now.
Okay.
So there's 2 categories that they could potentially fall under. The biggest change would be making sure that we're following legislation that's required of us as a municipality. And so the Community Enhancer Grant, I believe Route 22 had come forward and they were looking for multi-year funding. And so this would be a transition to help ensure that all of these all of these organizations that are receiving operational grants are starting to transition themselves to becoming more self-sustaining. So that's the intent of the multi-year funding under the Community Enhancer Grant, while opening up opportunities for new groups that are coming forward once those other groups start to kind of come to their end of their cycle. The essential grants would never have to reapply, because it is an essential service that we are required to be providing as a municipality. However, we are relying on the nonprofit provide that for the community.
Yeah, thank you for that clarity. I think we need to be super clear with, especially the list provided in the package, that these groups are not falling off in 24 months and then they're scrambling to replace those resources.
And that's why we wanted to make sure that there was 24 months and that there was a very clear understanding of where they would fall and how they could be applying to move forward. Not all of them will land on the essential list.
Yeah, perfect. No, I appreciate that. I think that was the extent of my questions. Otherwise, I really like the new policy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Reid.
Again, just wanted to reemphasize that I like the fact that this puts in place the mechanism that will avoid political interference and influence. The other thing is, two of our colleagues are missing tonight, and are you open to being able to receive comments from them in preparation for our next meeting in terms of what thoughts and comments they might have about this?
Through the chair to Councillor Reid, yes, of course. We're definitely looking for feedback.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Nagel.
I wanted to add that I thought Mayor Janot brought up a good point about the title of it. Even when I read the agenda item tonight, or not tonight, earlier today, when I was looking at the agenda, I was like, what exactly is this? And so I think something along the lines of like community groups, events and initiatives program, or something like that might be a bit more explanatory for user groups. But yeah, good point.
Councillor Flowers.
I agree that the name could be a little clearer. I wondered about having some kind of a little focus group with people that could ask questions and you could see if they understand it and if there's a way to simplify some of the language and just make it clearer and more concise. Because I think you're going to run into some problems with people just not getting it, and if it's not clear, then how can you make them follow the outcomes if it really isn't clear? So I'd like to see a little more work on that myself. Where would the food bank fall?
Through the chair to Councillor Flowers, the Activettes group, is that what
Yeah,
you're referring to?
it's not even the Activettes Food Bank anymore. It's gone on its own. So I'm just wondering which category it would fall into.
Currently, the Cochrane Food Bank does not receive operational grants, so if they were to apply, my best guess would be under essential services. However, that would be if they decided to apply.
And then essential services, they don't have to apply each time, or they still do?
There would be still a direct connection with administration to ensure that there's reporting structures that are still being followed and that we're understanding the return on investment, and it would still be a matching grant. Then we also would want to, that's the end of my response.
And the return on investment, does your staff have particular training on that?
We are working through that and so that's some of the software that we're looking at right now will help us evaluate that based on how reports are coming back. There are very key, the key metrics that I kind of had mentioned there where we would be following and making sure that we're kind of keeping track of. In the food bank example, we would be wanting to know how many people is the food bank serving every year? And are we seeing dramatic increases and is that investment, or are we seeing dramatic decreases, and does that investment need to be adjusted based on either of those scenarios?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that just leaves me, it looks like. I have 3 questions now. It looks in our email thread. The 2 members not present, we're just asking, is it best to email administration about their thoughts on this prior to the vote? I think that's what I just heard, is email works. Michelle?
That's perfect.
Yeah, okay, excellent. My 2 questions is this program proposal inspired from a different municipality? I can't really tell, or is it a unique offering from Michelle's team?
It's a great question. So we looked at multiple municipalities and then I Cochranized it. And so the reason for that is because Cochrane is very unique across Canada. We are very indirect. We are more of a facilitator in a lot of these spaces. So we had to kind of look at how other municipalities are providing grants and opportunities for nonprofits, and then make sure that we were really evaluating it based on the number of nonprofits that are providing services versus the number of services that Cochrane as a municipality is providing. So that was where it came from. I can get you the list of the other municipalities if you would like.
No, that's okay, just general curiosity. So in my first term, I think I remember having maybe 2 to 3 notices of motions in the whole 4 years, and one of them was about a matching grant, and I'm pleased to see that it's evolving into this, which seems to be, as Councillor Reid pointed out, more transparent and more of a process that people can expect results from and the council can analyze, so I appreciate that. The one part that got my attention here is approval, so it says 6A, Town of Cochrane administration will receive and prepare all grants, great. Administration has final approval on all requests funded from the program. I think I like that, not sure, but I do like part C, which is the applicant shall submit the required financial accounting as per the specific grant program guidelines. Pardon me, it's D that I like even better. The applicant may appeal the decision of administration to council. So that would be if they're not happy with the answer they get from administration. My question would be, how do they appeal to council? They just come to a council meeting, a committee of the whole perhaps, or how would that look?
They would be able to follow the delegation process.
Okay, excellent. And then the one part that was left out for me is when council sees the report that you said would be provided to council, if council sees things that are being funded that we don't think are the will of council and therefore residents of Cochrane, how would council make changes the other way? Is there an appeal process for council? Is that done during budget time, or how would you envision that?
The budget time would be allocating the overall budget for the community grant itself, like the bucket of money. Yep. But overseeing the actual like strategic priorities, if council feels like the applicant is not meeting council's strategic priorities, then we can definitely be having conversations on how we need to adjust the policy. But the goal would be to ensure that all of the applications are in line with council's strategic priorities.
Okay.
If I may add a little bit to that, thanks, Michelle. I believe also Michelle indicated that there will be an annual report on the outcomes and funding requirements. So every year council will get a touch point, and if council was to see those funding allocations going in a direction that they didn't support or felt like was disassociated from their objectives, then the policy belongs to council and could be adjusted at any time. And I think that that's one of the most healthy parts of this, is that regular touch point of this with council to keep that connectivity as part of that. We may find after a year or two that there's parts of this program that need to be adjusted, that need tweaking for functionality as part of that, both from the administrative perspective, from the user experience, and as well as what council's observing. And so I would describe it as it's a living process that can be adjusted over time as part of it. The other comment I would make is just to your kind of identifying the decision-making process as part of this is it kind of connected to some comments that Councillor Reid made before, is I think in every circumstance I've experienced, council's involvement should be most directly through guiding it at this level, the policy level, and stay as far away from the individualized decision-making. I actually even think, if you're asking me, I do not think there should be an appeal process to council for the individual groups to come forward and appeal, because you can end up seeing a circumstance where we're right back in a space where every group who doesn't get funded is now just coming to council. Council's now making all these individualized decisions as part of that. And again, that's worst case scenario, and I'm not sure that that's a likely outcome. And that rather it would be much more functional for council to set the policy parameters as clearly as they want, pass a really, really good policy. And then if it's not functioning the way council wants, don't get involved at the case-by-case level, make policy adjustments that close gaps or change outcomes that council would like to see happen in a different way. Again, to depoliticize that and to I think place this in a results-based and an outcome-based rather than kind of a political-based environment generally drives better decision-making.
Okay, thank you for that. My last question then that would be generated from both those comments is the dates when these are granted again, Michelle. Was this once a year that administration grants the funding, or is it twice a year? What did I hear there?
To the Deputy Mayor, there's multiple dates. So the operational grants are February 15th. The events and projects are March 30th. or May 1st, sorry. Or we may have adjusted it. So they're currently May 1st, but I believe, yeah, sorry, it's March 15th. The community organization and the youth-led grants would be just as an ongoing basis until that bucket of money is no longer available for the year.
Okay, thank you. So follow-up question again, just to get me to where I'm looking to be, and that is that when these are presented to council, as this is the report of the groups that are funded in Cochrane, if a councillor disagreed with our CEO's wisdom he just gave and wanted to express their displeasure in a group that was funded, the best way to do that would be to, at that point when the report is given, to perhaps initiate a change in the policy framework, or I'm just trying to still gather. I get that we don't want to politicize it. I also, I worry that when it's completely administratively driven, is administration choosing the will of council with these groups, or will that get, I worry that could go down a bad road just as well as it could getting politicized. I feel like it's
If I
just
may,
as
I
dangerous.
think based on my commentary, maybe I'll jump in there first, and Michelle, you can certainly supplement that. I'm suggesting that council is completely in control of this process, but they do it at the policy level and not at the case-by-case evaluation level. And so it's in setting these policy parameters that council would guide that process and have complete control over those outcomes. And so if council wanted to see a certain type of activities in the community or events happen, then you would set in this policy a prioritization of those types of events and policies through the policy framework, rather than on the evaluation or the decision-making end of that process. But to be perfectly clear, this is not an administrative-driven process. Council's driving that right now by setting the framework and setting the policy that's in front of council. Administration will then use that to implement and operationalize council's guidance. And so I just want to be super, super careful that that's clear and understood, that this is how council drives those processes and ensures that their will and the community will, as they perceive it, is best lived through that policy.
Thank you. And so to change policy frameworks, if a council wasn't pleased with how it's going, what would be the most likely metric to do that? Is it a notice of motion? Is it a response during the reporting time? I'm just trying to get how that would look.
I think both of those are always available, whether a notice of motion. Most naturally, I would say, as the annual report comes forward, a council member could say, hey, this policy isn't quite driving the outcomes I expected. Perhaps we could reconsider X and appeal to their colleagues. Can we see this policy brought back for consideration? And then, of course, at the will of council, that would be done. And this is, again, why I wanted to emphasize that annual reporting period as a natural touch base where council will stay connected to and associated with those outcomes. And then as long as those outcomes are satisfactory, the policy is working as desired, away we go. If that ever a disconnect evolves, it can be evaluated and adjusted on an annual basis.
Perfect. Sounds good to me. Clear as mud. I think this is a better program and procedure than we currently have. It's an improvement, and I guess we'll see if it does get implemented. I guess we'll see what can be improved or changed as we go. I think Councillor Flowers had some thoughts, some worries that I had too about, have we made it too difficult? Is it too obscure for people that are trying to work their way through this to apply for things? We'll see how that goes as it comes, but I think it's an improvement. So thanks for bringing it forward. It looks like Councillor Nagel has another thought.
So as we move forward, is this going to have an appeal process in it, or is that being removed from it?
Through the chair to Councillor Nagel. So currently that is written in the policy, but as Mr. Derricott suggested, like maybe that is something that we should be.
If I may, I was just suggesting that as I'm not sure that would be as a helpful element from my personal perspective. The policy is in front of you, does contain that appeal mechanism. And so unless council was to ask for it to be removed, then it would come forward as is.
Okay. I like the appeal process. With all due respect, I don't think we're incapable of deciding on what community events are bad or good, that we'd be somehow unduly influenced by the community. And I feel like if there was an example where the community was unduly influencing us, it would be because there's dozens of people calling for it, not just one or two small special interest group people or something like that. And so maybe in areas of great expertise, legal stuff, engineering, those types of topics, I think it is wise that council doesn't have the final decision on some of those little details. But when it comes to things like parades and barbecues and balloon cutting events or ribbon cutting events, sorry. I think we can handle that, and I like the appeal process.
If you're cutting balloons, I don't know if
Apparently I can't cut balloons, so demonstrated my own incompetency.
Well said, Councillor Nagel, I agree. It looks like that exhausts our lights, and I hope administration got what they were looking for, and we'll look forward to this at a future council meeting.
I just have two things,
Please,
just
yes.
one for a point of clarity. Would you like me to bring back a couple of different naming options for the policy? And then also the second would be just kind of explaining, so this year, what we started doing with our current grants was we started launching videos to educate the community of what types of projects or what types of opportunities they could be applying for. We hosted webinars on how to apply for the grant and how to do all of the reporting. And so just wanting to make sure that there is an understanding that there's a lot of educational information that goes out throughout the year, and then specifically the few months prior to the actual like deadlines. So if we're looking for very specific names, I'm happy to bring something back, but I just want to make sure that I'm doing that if that's what you wish.
Okay, thank you. Two questions, Council, naming and types of, and how-to educational videos associated. What do we think? Mayor Janug.
I'm pretty happy with the how-to. I think you guys have outlined a really good program and how to transition, how to educate people on once they're in the system, how to navigate it. For me, it was just about if I'm new to Cochrane, then I had the same question as Councillor Flowers. I even wrote down like, so I want to apply, now what? I don't even know, I actually wouldn't even know how to search this program up to understand that I'm looking for a grant. What is our current program called? Just community grant program?
Yes, so through the chair of the mayor, it's called the Community Grant Program. We've got a website for it, and then we have our small events and projects stream, and then a large events stream. So those are the only two grant streams that are actually publicly communicated out on our website. So the vision here would be, if this policy is approved, is the same process. We would see that, and then we would see all of the different streams that are approved through the policy on the website. Currently, the videos that are out are focused very much on events, and we would make sure that we are investing in creating new videos so that it's very clear for organizations on what types of grants are available to the community.
I appreciate your question back to us, so I feel bad. I don't like the name, but I did not have
Turn your light on there, Mr. Mayor.
sorry. And then you're going to come back with another name, and I'm going to go, no, I don't like that name either, so we could do this for weeks. I'm suggesting maybe it just remain the same as it was, the community grant program. But I'm happy to see options that might be better than that. But I think just something clear that this is where you would go to apply for a grant.
Thank you.
Councillor Flowers.
I would like Cochrane Community Grant Program, just so that the Rocky View County people don't apply.
Thank you.
Important distinction, Councillor Flowers. If there's no other lights on, I agree with the mayor on the name that we just said, and educational videos or finding ways to make sure that the public understands how they apply for these grants can only help. So very interested to hear more about that as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. It looks like we've exhausted the business portion, and all we have left is a closed session, which I believe I need to ask for a motion to move into. So I will ask for that motion now. Anybody prepared to make that motion? Councillor Flowers, you'd like to motion to move into closed session. All those in favor of that? Unanimous. We'll do that now. Maybe a brief break before